fragrance, I would say, is to the nose what music is to the ears. It's exactly the same. Voilà.
Christophe Laudomil designs fragrances not only for people, but for clothes, products, even environments, like the scent used exclusively in Abercrombie & Fitch stores. Here, Laudomil's signature scent is pumped out like music to provide consumers a unique shopping experience.
Your nose is as important as your eyes, in fact, and usually it's always more important than your ears to decide, to feel, to remember, to learn. So all that is also influenced by the sense of smell.
Modern fragrances like these are made from thousands of chemical ingredients, synthesized in a lab and designed to mimic natural aromas.
In perfumery, you can use man-made molecules. You cannot extract the sea. There is no sea extract that smells like you're on a boat. You have to recreate that. Okay. Some ingredients are so powerful, you dilute them just like a very strong pigment, you dilute it in white paint. So it's the same with ingredients. Some ingredients are extremely powerful. They can smell of sewage. But then if you dilute it, the same ingredient, it will smell of hazelnuts.
So it shouldn't surprise me that what I smell isn't real lemon or vanilla, but a concoction of chemicals manufactured for industrial distribution designed to trick me.
We have 3,000 raw materials. In some way, shape, or form, all 3,000 are on this floor somewhere. The ingredients that you'll find in any fragrance company are relatively the same. There's about 3,000 raw materials, and when perfumers are creating, these are building blocks as raw materials for them.
Fragrance ingredients either come from petroleum or plants.
A lot of the synthetic chemicals that are used to make these less expensive fragrances are derived from petrochemical feedstocks. And the reason for that is that they're a lot less expensive. We buy the natural chemicals, which are more expensive, of course, but derived from plant materials, from botanicals.
Natural fragrance makers often list their ingredients on product labels. But if anyone did want to find out what synthetic chemicals were used in a fragrance, they couldn't. Companies can claim those ingredients as a trade secret.
So the sense of smell is very, very secret because the industry kept it as a black box, but also because it's very, very complex to study. People are not educated to read formulas, and there is no intellectual property coverage or protection.
Most fragrance companies couldn't patent their formulas, so they were recipes. There was a formula vault, looks like a bank vault. All the formulas are sacrosanct. They're held in that vault. Very few people in the organization were allowed access to them because they're recipes. And it's easy if someone gets their hands on a formula to reproduce that.
Like the secret formula for Coca-Cola or the Colonel's recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Recent scientific discoveries have added new and entirely different components.
Fragrance makers can keep the chemical components in their scents secret.
The result? Fragrances never known before. And thus, a great fragrance is born.
Today, fragrance is a $100 billion industry and still growing. Whether a scent is promoted as a product feature or sold as a fine perfume, the truth is, most fragrance ingredients don't come from flower fields in France. They come from chemical factories in New Jersey.
The perfume industry has been trying to maintain a mystique because fragrances have always had a certain allure of mystery and romance and creativity about it. And by transforming it into a chemical company with ingredient disclosure, that mystique is gone.
The fragrance industry expressly said that they don't want consumers to know that the ingredients that are in Chanel No. 5 are some of the same ingredients that are used in their toilet bowl cleaner. They don't think the consumer is sophisticated enough to be able to make that distinction. There's a lot that goes into making a fragrance, and we get that. We're not asking for that. We're asking for what chemicals are used in our personal care products, what chemicals are used in our cleaning products, so that we can make educated decisions.
But trade secrets aren't limited to perfumes, pajamas, and personal care products. Many industries say their ingredients are a trade secret in order to avoid disclosing that their product contains toxic chemicals.
If you have an ingredient or a chemical in your product that a consumer can Google and find out that it is toxic or carcinogenic, well, You don't want to have to tell people that that chemical is in there.
What's troubling is where these secret chemicals are ending up.
According to an independent lab hired by the Environmental Working Group, my blood contains 175 chemicals linked to cancer, 210 chemicals linked to heart disease, and 196 chemicals linked to birth defects. But the most disturbing results of this study revealed all 10 infants tested had almost as many chemicals in their blood as the adults.
We tested umbilical cord blood from 10 babies born in the U.S. We tested for more than 300 chemicals. We found 287 chemicals altogether. Everything from consumer product ingredients like Teflon and Scotchgard to flame retardants and fragrances to waste that comes from burning gasoline and garbage. The chemicals that are in the environment that are in our everyday products end up in our body. These chemicals get into the mother's body, slip across the placenta, and contaminate babies even before the moment of birth. And the fact is, each one of us, each of our children is born pre-polluted with hundreds of different chemicals from our everyday lives, from our everyday products.
Of the over 80,000 chemicals circulating in commerce today, of high concern is a family of commonly used chemicals called phthalates. Found in everything from fragrances to cosmetics, pesticides to plastics, cleaning supplies and clothing. Phthalates are also members of a longer list of man-made molecules called endocrine-disrupting chemicals, or EDCs. Our endocrine system controls mood, growth, metabolism, sexual development, and reproduction, and relies on hormones for normal function.
There is a class of chemicals called endocrine disruptors that actually mimic natural components of our systems, hormones in particular. And these chemicals can interfere with the function of those hormones by binding to the same sites in cells where these hormones normally bind and creating havoc if the exposure to those chemicals is happening in a way that interferes with the normal processes.
Endocrine disruptors are synthetic chemicals that sneak into our bodies through the nose, mouth, and skin, and trick our endocrine system into mistaking them for real hormones.
When you have a synthetic chemical that is a mimic for a hormone or does something directly to disrupt the activity of one of those signaling naturally occurring chemicals, you have a disruption, and that has downstream consequences. The intestines go ahead and take more calories. The pancreas secretes more insulin, and the ovaries and testicles that secrete our sex hormones are sensitive to disruption by these chemical signals that are mimics for the naturally occurring hormones in our body.
Although most of us have never heard of endocrine-disrupting chemicals,
What do you think that pink stuff is?
Chemicals.
Why would you say that?
the World Health Organization warns that exposure to EDCs represents a global health threat.
These chemicals have been introduced into the environment without any careful testing for their potential effects on human health and on children's health especially.
EDCs are rarely listed on product labels, so we don't know when we're exposed. And these chemicals are everywhere. The truth is, EDC exposure has been linked to infertility, birth defects, learning disabilities, and cancer. Unfortunately, it gets worse. Endocrine disruptors are proven mutagens, which means they can actually mutate our DNA.
What's troubling is that endocrine disrupting chemicals can lead to changes in the chemical signals on the DNA molecules themselves that tell the body to turn off or turn on certain genes. So a child born to a mother that had an endocrine disrupting chemical exposure can have health consequences that have nothing to do with the child's exposure, but relate directly to an endocrine disrupting chemical exposure in the mother.
Because product manufacturers can use endocrine disrupting chemicals and keep that a secret from consumers, they will never be responsible for any negative health outcomes in the future.
I think she just moved a little.
We are quietly becoming genetically modified by toxic chemicals.
The chemical industry has always wanted to hide information about harm from its products from the public, but also from government regulators as well. And it's very hard to tease out, once these are in the environment, what's causing our health problems, because we're exposed to so many different things.
We've been in dialogue with the fragrance industry, with the cosmetics industry, with the cleaning products industry, who are saying we don't want to disclose our ingredients because we don't think there's a problem. And they are looking at their one product or their one chemical and saying it's fine. What they're not doing, they're not looking at the variety of exposures that all of us are exposed to.
Chemicals exist in mixtures, and it is next to impossible to figure out how 2 chemicals or 3 chemicals in that mix are working together in concert to create some type of chemical chaos.
The rise in autism, the rise in breast cancer, the rise in reproductive problems, the rise in certain childhood cancers, the increase of diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, all have to be due to environmental factors. And if you map the increase of those diseases against the increased use and exposure to toxic chemicals, there's a pretty good match there.
When the chemical